Good morning. Good morning. We have the wrong. Let me get this out of here. Oh my God, it's one of those days. Okay, you are tuned in to the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI for short, because we bring you way too much information. Everything from news, politics to lifestyle, culture, fad diets, blah 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 blah. So we are here live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Please be sure to like and follow the show. This is the Ted and Manila Information Show, but Robby West is filling in for the very pregnant Manila Chan, who's off doing pregnant girl stuff this morning. You can probably imagine. And she's ready to drop any second, so who knows what's going to happen there. I'm kind of hoping she holds out so that she does not give birth to a Taurus child. If you believe in that sort of thing. Anyway, good morning, Robby. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. It's just like I feel like we just talked to each other.
It does feel that way, I think it's it's like this is we don't have anything set up correctly because we had a communication screw up. I thought Robby was setting up the TMI show and he thought I was setting up the TMI show. We didn't even talk about it. So it's kind of like, oh, wait, how come you're not here? And you're like, wait, how come you're not here? So totally crossed wires. Without Manila, it's just not the same. And she'll be back tomorrow.
You really need three people for this kind of work. Honestly,
you do. You really do.
Man, people don't understand just how the sausage is made. It's pretty wild. But
it's true. One of these days, that could be like a Rumble Premium episode. We could just sort of explain the logistics behind the show. Who knows if anyone would be interested in that? I think they might be.
Well, you got to remember, we're going to be testing out the new Rumble Studio system this weekend.
That's true.
So that might be something that we stream because, listen, let's be honest. Our tech support screwing around shows a lot of times get more views than the actual news shows do. And I think it's wild because people are really curious about how it all works, especially if you have a retard like me on the back end. Like, how do you make this? How do you push a square peg through that round hole? I mean, just get a bigger hammer. How does it work? Yeah.
It's so true. It's so weird. It's like, what? I don't even understand. So, Robby, do you have the story ready to read?
I do not. I have got nothing.
Oh my God, really? Okay, so
I've got nothing.
You ain't got nothing. All right. So Manila was kind enough to tee up the stories for us this morning for the TMI show. So I will read the stories because there's no way for Robby to read them. All right. So
listen, you get mad at me for reading the ads too slow. Do you really want me reading stories? No,
that's true. I mean, the TMI show tends to run long as it is, so we don't need that. Okay.
We can just do abbreviated Cliff Note versions of the story too. Listen, Manila's not here. That's true. That means we can do whatever the hell it is we want.
We could do an entire Melania movie review.
So Kizzy, she's going to Atlanta on Sunday. So next week, I'm really excited about this. Me and Thomas are going to be bachelors for a week. It's going to be epic.
What are you two rascals going to do?
I have no idea, but
nothing good, I'm sure.
Dishes are not one of them. I went to the grocery store, got some paper plates. we are going to do this true redneck style. It's going to be wild. Oh God, Ted, if you could come here to Montana next week,
I wish
we could just go shooting.
I would do that, but I'm like scared to death of my finances, because of the disruption that happened to deprogram. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I have to save money.
Bills come, bills go. Fuck them.
I wish it was that. I really do wish it was that simple.
I'm right there with you, man. I feel it. But people, that was some bad mojo.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. It came as a very unpleasant surprise. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. But what's not a surprise though is Trump chickening out again.
No, that we saw that one coming. We talked about that yesterday, and I think everyone's like, "Oh, look, I'm glad that he chickened out." I mean, I literally thought there was a concern he would be. I mean, yesterday I had to answer a bunch of questions from people about can Donald Trump really unilaterally launch nuclear weapons, because that was the implication that he was going to nuke Tehran last night. We might have woken up this morning, and I was speculating that if that happened, he would still be defended, and no one would be seeking to remove him from office, and nothing much would really happen. And I believe that's true. But fortunately he did. But I think we're going to be right back where we started in 2 weeks, as we were talking about on Deprogram. I don't think that fundamentally, the Iranians cannot agree to the stuff that the United States is asking for. And I don't think the United States will allow Iran to reemerge as a fully sovereign country the way that they kind of feel that they have the right to, and that they need to, as an existential requirement of moving forward. They can't have the Israelis and the Americans bombing them over and over again. So, but yeah, he did taco. It's true.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Ted. You've traveled that part of the world extensively. You're a student of history, just like what I am.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like this whole idea of unconditional surrender is a very new and very American idea.
Yeah.
I've been going through just looking like the wars in Europe and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there were wars, but the concessions usually pretty small. Like Silesia would get carved out of Poland and get added to Germany, or the Strasbourgs would get moved. It was border changes. But this whole idea of just total destruction and domination of your opponent, that just wasn't a thing. It just didn't happen. So is that because America is a continental power, or is that where did this whole idea of unconditional surrender come from?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, it came out of World War. It started in World War II, right? Where FDR, and I think it was his idea, just basically decided, I'm going to require the access to surrender unconditionally. My take on this was that it was a vestige of the Treaty of Versailles, and that ended World War I, right? That basically those negotiations and the subsequent, redrafting of maps at the, following the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 was such a fraught, lengthy affair that really didn't solve anything, and then set the stage for World War II, that FDR's thought was, well, I don't want to do that again. And also, he was a sick, old, dying man by the end of World War II. He literally did die before the end of the war. Yeah. So I think that he was just thinking like, well, we've won, we've fought this to a conclusion, and we just want what we want. We don't want to have to talk about anything. I think it really came down to that. FDR was kind of an asshole, and but I think that sets up its own set of problems. And not, by the way, Donald Trump claimed that he wanted unconditional surrender, but once you start negotiating, you're past unconditional surrender. Fortunately, I mean, I remember reading about it in history class about World War II and thinking, unconditional surrender just seems incredibly stupid. And it shouldn't be something you should ask for, because it encourages your enemy to fight to the last man, the way the Germans did in Berlin. You just don't, you're not giving them a way out. It's like, that's just like, why would you not just keep fighting?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's examples of that. When Grant, when he was marching on Richmond there at the Battle of Cold Harbor, he lost 7,000 men in 20 minutes. Think about that.
That's crazy.
That's killed. I mean, that's not wounded. That's killed, because he just tried to just bludgeon the Army of Northern Virginia into collapse. Eventually, he was able to, a year later, and with 60,000 more dead men that didn't need to die. So what was the point? And then the same thing with the Punic Wars, with Roman Carthage. It doesn't make any sense. And I just don't understand it. We'll go on with after this. But World War II, Japan had demands that the United States accepted before Japan surrendered. That's why they still have an emperor.
Right. So there were terms.
Of course there were. The Japanese kept what was important to them, which was their emperor, who was a genocidal moron, a insane guy who should have frankly been hung by the neck till dead, but they got to keep him because he's the god. No, he's the God man.
Right.
So figure that out.
No, you're quite right. Yeah, I don't get it. I totally don't get it. Okay, so shall we do the first story?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Just do it abbreviated because you talk too slow.
Yeah, my apologies. All right, shut out from whatever war planning there was. Not a single country, let alone NATO as a bloc, directly joined the U.S. and Israel in its war against Iran. Even those with the most justification to get involved, or the most motivation might be the better word here, namely the Persian Gulf countries under attack by the Iranians, have refused to join. Many, like Japan, instead preferred a separate diplomatic track, particularly about reopening the Strait of Hormuz. The UK chaired a meeting of 35 countries to discuss ways to persuade Iran to allow access for at least some ships. The US didn't attend. The UAE appealed to the UN to authorize measures to reopen the strait by any means necessary. Again, the US had nothing to do with it. French President Emmanuel Macron said the quiet part out loud by calling on medium-sized countries to stand up to Trump, complaining that the U.S. was unpredictable. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, is now bragging about his defiance of Trump as a way to appeal to British voters. Meanwhile, NATO chief Mark Rutte is under fire from alliance members for shrugging off Trump's insults and backing the Iran war. More than 5,000 people have died so far in the war, mostly in Iran and Lebanon, where Israel's war against Hezbollah in the Lebanese people is ongoing. For now, Trump's apocalyptic threats to wipe out Iranian civilization are on hold for a couple of weeks. I don't know that there's a lot to comment on there. What do you think?
I don't think there is. I don't think that the ceasefire is going to hold. I think there's too much bad blood. I think there's too many bad actors in the area. First and foremost is Israel. You got Mark Levin basically throwing a temper tantrum that Trump's even entertaining the idea of a ceasefire and not nuking Iran because that would be the more humanitarian thing to do.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think this is going to fall down. I think it's going to collapse. The Iranians would be insane to not get concessions out of the United States first and foremost before anything else, sanctions relief. All sanctions have to be released, period. If we don't have that, we don't have a conversation because Iran has a vote.
Right. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't get why the West is failing to see that.
Because we're arrogant. That's why. I mean, if you're the top dog and you're the top dog for 80 years, and I'm not going to put Europe in on this because Europe is occupied. We have 200,000 troops stationed all throughout Western and Central Europe. If you're occupied by foreign army, first of all, you're cucked. What can you possibly do? What can you say? The answer is nothing. You're going to do as you're told. And the United States, I think Trump is still thinking that this is the 1950s or 1960s, where the United States has this massive industrial base and that we don't have an interconnected global economy. He's still thinking about that we make shoes and computers here in this country in his deluded little orange mind. And he doesn't figure in that we're importing all this stuff. And what you do to import stuff? You need energy. Where does the energy come from? More than 20% of it comes from Iran, or at least that part of the world. And Iran's has flipped the off switch. I mean, that's a major issue. And really the big winner here is Russia. If Russia was the major problem, that's what we've been told ever since the Ukraine war started, then all we've done is made Russia into a truly economic superpower at this point.
And now Iran.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Iran certainly, look, the Gulf states are clearly now understand that they're not getting the only thing they have is oil exports, and they have to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And there's no fucking getting around the fact that the Iranians control that choke point. And there's no getting around the fact that they're going to have to make nice with the Iranians. I love the fact that they're like, slowly, surely, we're going to maybe someday you're going to have to do this like right away. Otherwise, your economies are going to collapse completely. You have no choice.
Well, you have a choice. You can choose collapse.
Yeah, no one's going to choose that.
But I mean, why would you do that? I mean, Trump's insane, but I mean, even he can read a spreadsheet.
Yes, that's how things are for sure. Yeah. So, let's move on. A new report by the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, the FDD, is raising concerns that AI tools might be steering users towards foreign propaganda, potentially creating what researchers call a growing national security risk. A recently released report by the FDD's Center for Cyber and Technology Innovation found that major AI platforms frequently cite state-aligned media sources when answering questions about global conflicts. According to the report, state-aligned propaganda appeared in 57% of responses. The research looked at responses from the three leading AI systems, ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, by posing about 180 questions about conflicts involving Israel and Hamas, Russia and Ukraine, China and Taiwan. Each query required the systems to cite sources. By treating propaganda as reliable and driving traffic to its purveyors, large language models make propaganda appear authoritative, the report said. Researchers found that in certain state-backed outlets appeared repeatedly in AI-generated citations, including Qatar-based Al Jazeera, Russia-linked Pravda, Turkey's Anadolu agency, and China's state-run China Daily. In some cases, those sources were cited even when the questions were framed in ways that might be unfavorable to those governments. AI training relies on outlets with high publication volume, global reach, and accessibility. Those are the attributes of the most influential state-aligned propaganda outlets, the report explained. I wouldn't call Al Jazeera, or for that matter, Pravda, or even China Daily propaganda outlets. They're government news agencies. I mean, with a point of view in the same way that the BBC and former Radio Free Europe and all those places do. But or the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Anyway, the findings also suggest that the issue goes beyond the answers that AI systems generate and extends to the sources that they recommend. While chatbot responses might appear balanced, the linked citations expose users to more extreme or biased narratives. Users who click through links to verify claims will be exposed to more polarizing content than what the AI initially presented, the report warns. Citations can become a pipeline to biased and even extremist views, blah, 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 blah. The report also highlighted the dominance of Wikipedia in AI citations. I've certainly noticed that, Robby, appearing in 80% of responses. Wikipedia has long been the subject of criticism over potential organized bias and susceptibility to coordinated editing campaigns. Investigative reporter Cheryl Atkinson addressed the issue more than a decade ago in a TED Talk, where she outlined how Wikipedia editors refuse to make corrections and, depending on the ideological narrative at issue, will delete corrections of which the editors disapprove. As reliance on AI tools deepens, the citation of propaganda is metastasizing into a national security threat, the report says. The report recommends that developers of AI reduce the prominence of state-controlled media in responses, increase transparency around the process of how sources are selected, and are urging policymakers to incorporate citation integrity into AI safety standards as the U.S. government expands its own use of AI technologies.
I have a question for you, Ted. You're a cartoonist. Does that mean you're a propagandist? I mean, define the term. What is propaganda?
Right.
I mean,
which, by the way, used to not be a negative term. I mean, like it used to be like governments, not just like Nazi Germany, had departments of propaganda. Propaganda just means putting out your point of view. It's publicity, right?
Yeah, it's making an argument.
It's making an argument, right?
Yeah,
so propaganda after World War II sort of took on a meaning of being like bullshit, spin, like untrustworthy, like fake news, right?
Yeah. Well, to my point of view, Sean Hannity and Mark Levin are propaganda artists, because what they are doing is that they are selling the point of view for a foreign government, i.e. Israel, to the American people to get us to commit our blood, treasure, and resources into defending this country that's actively committing a genocide with no material benefit whatsoever to the American people writ large. That's propaganda. But if I want to go, I want to read the Times of India because I want to see what's going on, with the Straits of Malacca, and see how Australia is being starved right now, and so is Burma, of oil. Then that means I'm reading propaganda. But yet, Mark Levin is the pillar of truth. So define the term for me. What is propaganda?
Well, for me, Robby, propaganda is when is not journalism without a point of view, because there's no such thing. Human beings all have biases. But I think propaganda is where there's no attempt whatsoever to sort of highlight contrasting or differing points of view. Like, for example, you're taught as a high school, if you work at a high school paper, if there's two sides or more to a story, to call up and get a quote from people who represent all the sides to the story. A lot of and I would say this is true about a lot of mainstream coverage, no longer even follows that rule. Like, for example, when I sued the Los Angeles Times itself would cover my lawsuit as news. They never once called me for comment. They never once quoted anything that I had to say about the case, even though I wrote tens of thousands of words about it. To me, that's propaganda. It's like, so obviously the LA Times likes itself more than it likes me, who is suing it, and that's to be expected. But you're not even like Sean Hannity is propaganda, not because he's a right winger. He's a propagandist because there is no world in which he will not continue his point of view, no matter what the facts say, right? So he'll defend Donald Trump, for example, no matter what. If Donald Trump walks around naked outside the White House and is like raping dogs, he'll come up with a way to justify it. If he had nuked Tehran last night, he would justify it. That's the market of, if you can predict with absolute certainty what a journalist or a pundit would have to say about a fictional story, aliens land on Earth, and 100%, that person is a propagandist. A person who, a news outlet that is not a propagandist is going to surprise you sometimes. It'll be a conservative outlet that sometimes criticizes a conservative political leader or a conservative point of view on occasion. And vice versa. A liberal outlet will give, some time and give a fair hearing to a point of view that it disagrees with. I think that's where I would say, so for example, is China daily propaganda? It is, if it's talking about Taiwan, always as a renegade province, always as a country that has no claim to independence, that never talks to Taiwanese independence activists, then it's a propaganda sheet.
But how would that be propaganda? Because all that stuff is true. I mean, it is a rogue province. It is in rebellion. It is it is operating outside of law from both a Taiwanese and a mainland China standpoint, because even the Taiwanese constitution says there is one China and that the nationalist government in Taipei is the government of a unified China.
Well,
so is that propaganda?
I agree with all those things, but there is a case to be made that because Taiwan has had de facto independence now since 1949, they've developed their own economic system. They have a separate, discrete culture. The people have evolved away from mainland China, and maybe there is a logical reason that Taiwan should not be folded back into the motherland. That's a legitimate point of view. Doesn't mean it's one I agree with, sure. But you know what I mean? Like, there's that we can all think of legitimate points of view that we don't necessarily agree with, but they're legitimate.
Gotcha. Because here's what's interesting to me about this whole story is the entire purpose of propaganda is to mold how it is that you think, to try and control you up here.
Yep.
That's the whole point. Well, if you're concerned about propaganda, then to me, it seems like the thing that you want to do the most is make sure that the reader or the viewer is getting as much information from as many diversified sources as possible. So that way you can see what the BS is. it seems to me that what it is that the American government is the one that's trying to propagandize us, and they don't want us reading or consuming content that offers an alternative point of view. It's like the Soviet Union in reverse. When the Iron Curtain came down, the Russians are smart enough to know that probably was BS, because it obviously was. Now we're in the information age, and you have all this information that's available everywhere. But our government and also the corporations that control our government are saying, "Oh no, you can't look at all this other stuff. You can't get someone else's point of view. Like I can't be friends with Mr. Lee over there in the UK because he has a different point of view than I do, because he'll change my mind." Oh my God! Like that's just the hardest thing ever.
Right. No, I hear you. Yeah. No, I mean, I think personally, I think it's valuable to have access to state outlets like like the ones that you're like China Daily, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to censor them. I mean, I think it's like if I'm running an AI model, I think this market goes a little too far. But I think the valid point here is that you would want the responses to look more like, to have a heavier influence, to draw more from quote unquote mainstream news organizations like the Washington Post and New York Times. But that said, everything's biased. They're biased as shit. I mean, the New York Times doesn't give, for example, Bernie Sanders a fair shake, or for that matter, Donald Trump. So it's kind of like there's always biases. The idea that you could make search results, which is what we're talking about here for AI, is really just sophisticated search results. It's Google plus. The idea that you can make them straightforward and accurate, that's just really not true. I mean, I think correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Robby, but what I'm hearing from you is basically, if you want to get to the truth, like read everything and draw your own conclusions.
The truth is almost always somewhere in the middle. And so how do you get to the middle? By consuming as much content and then checking your sources and just seeing just this is my model. This is the Robby model. I read as much as I can from as many different sources as I can, especially from people who I disagree with politically, because I don't want to be captured by my own confirmation bias. And then I make a decision based off of that. I don't want someone to put me into a box and say, "Robby, you must believe this." I mean, to me, that's the worst thing you could possibly ever do. Oh, we've got breaking news. Iran will withdraw from the ceasefire agreement if Israel continues to violate the ceasefire by attacking Lebanon, the Tassin news agency has just released. So propaganda we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
If the U.S. cannot control its vicious dog in the region, Iran will exceptionally help it in this matter by kicking the dog in the face.
Is that what it said?
It's what it says.
That's awesome. I love the Iranians. I also like how they call Trump the orange pig.
Yeah, that's fitting.
Yeah. Well,
but that's propaganda, though, right? I just went off the reservation. I didn't get this from Fox News or CNN. Rachel Maddow did not send me my morning briefing before the show this morning. No, she did not. So I am giving you unauthorized information.
Yes, you are.
So that means I'm a propagandist, even though what I'm telling you is true.
Right. And in fact, this is an example of a state-controlled outlet, right? That basically is offering news, and that you need to go straight to the source. This is the official statement issued by the Iranian government, and we need to know what the Iranian government is saying to know where they stand here, right? So,
yeah, 100%. I mean, you've changed my mind. Ted, I've read your book twice.
Right.
I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, it is an honest question here. Is it possible to have a representative style of government if you do not have multiple sources of information for the electorate to read and then make decisions based off of to shape policy?
No, I don't believe so.
I don't either. So then what's Why is DC so scared? Unless we are not if we're not a republic anymore.
Well, you know the answer to that.
No, we're not a republic anymore.
No. I don't know exactly when it stopped, but no, we are not.
I think in the 60s. I think that's when it stopped. I think that's when the takeover started. And now it's obvious. It's in our face. When Augustus, when he became emperor, he kept the trappings of the republic in place.
Mm.
And that continued on through Caligula's day. Caligula is the one who did away with the Senate and all that other mess, because what's the point? This is all theater. And he's right at that point. That's where we are now. That's why Congress is on a permanent vacation. What's the point? Why do we have it?
Yep. Totally. Agree. Well, that's all right. Well, so I guess we should talk about this. What do you think is going to happen here, Robby? I think the Iranians, I don't think the Israelis, this was part of their plan, was to scuttle the ceasefire. They don't want a ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. So will they continue to attack Hezbollah? I mean, I guess at this point, Trump's on the phone with Netanyahu and saying, please stop. The question is, will Netanyahu stop?
Why would he? He owns Trump. He's got Trump by the balls. It's the same thing as Iran, right? Why would Iran capitulate to the United States when they have got the U.S. by the balls? It's the same thing with Russia in Ukraine. Why is Russia not stopping the war? The answer is because they're winning. Netanyahu controls the U.S. government. Why would he stop now? He wouldn't. No, you go for maximum effect, and here's the whole issue with going maximalist. Eventually, you overreach. That's what's going to have to happen here. And my fervent hope is that every pro-Zionist politician that runs in 2028 loses. I hope that Israel becomes so toxic and that it becomes so radioactive that anybody who hitches their wagon to that pathetic little genocidal country on the western bank of the Mediterranean just gets totally bitch slapped. Well, eastern bank, I guess. Yeah, east. I need more coffee.
Who too doesn't really? All right, another story. Angela Lips was at her Tennessee house babysitting 4 kids when armed police officers came and took her away at gunpoint. She was later booked as a fugitive in relation to a bank fraud investigation in North Dakota, over 1,000 miles away. The only problem was that Lips had never been to, North Dakota. The grandmother of 5 told investigators that she had lived most of her life in north central Tennessee and had never even been on a plane. Unfortunately, the cops in Fargo, North Dakota, obtained a signed warrant for her arrest on multiple charges, including felony theft and felony unauthorized use of personal identifying information. Angela Lips later learned that she had been identified as a suspect in an organized bank fraud case. Investigators reviewing cases in April and May of last year, in which a woman used a fake U.S. Army military ID to withdraw tens of thousands of dollars from banks, used facial recognition software on surveillance camera footage, and identified the Tennessee grandmother as the main suspect. The West Fargo Police Department told CNN that the AI facial recognition software they used in the investigation identified a potential suspect with similar features to Angela Lips. And someone apparently thought that this was enough to have the woman arrested. If the only thing you have is facial recognition, I might want to dig a little deeper, Angela's attorney told WDAY News. After spending 3 months plus in a Tennessee jail at the end of October, Angela Lips was put on a plane and flown to North Dakota, where she was once again thrown in jail simply because an AI recognition software decided her facial features, body type, and hairstyle matched those of some crime suspect. On December 23rd, the detective in the bank fraud case, the state's attorney, and the judge who had signed her arrest warrant mutually agreed to dismiss the charges without prejudice to allow for further investigation. So I don't know if people are familiar with this term. Without prejudice means that these charges could be refiled again in the future. With prejudice would mean they're dismissed permanently. With prejudice sounds bad, but it's actually better. At this point, Angela Lipp's attorney had produced her bank records, which clearly showed that she had been 1,200 miles away in Tennessee when the crimes were committed. So Angela finally, after her ordeal, got released from custody in North Dakota on Christmas Eve. They didn't even so much as fucking apologize. She was left stranded in a place she didn't know. They didn't bother to fly her home with no way of getting back. Her attorney helped cover a hotel room and food on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And eventually, a nonprofit came to the rescue and helped put her on a plane back to Tennessee. Apart from the trauma and humiliation Angela Lips had to endure throughout this 6-month-long hell, the Tennessee woman also ended up losing her house and her pets because she couldn't pay her bills because, she was in jail. Her lawyers are currently exploring civil rights claims, but have yet to file a lawsuit. They will. As for Angela, she's just glad the nightmare is finally over. I'm just glad it's over, she told WDAY. I will never go back to North Dakota.
Don't blame her. We got more breaking news.
All right, let's hear it.
Fars News has just reported that in response to Israel conducting its Operation Eternal Darkness in Lebanon and the massacre of all those people, the Straits of Hormuz have been closed again. So this is the shortest lived ceasefire in the history of ceasefires. And they said any tanker trying to run will be sunk.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
The war's back on, boys.
Okay, well, that was short. I didn't have much hope for the. I don't. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And who the hell comes up with these names? If you're going to come up with a name for your invasion of another country, talk about propaganda. Would you probably name it something besides Operation Eternal Darkness? Like maybe rename it into Operation Save the Lamb, or something kind of that denotes something that you're not the spawn of Satan.
Right.
Yeah, it's just wild. But no, as far as the Dakota thing, it just goes. Cops are getting lazy. They rely too much on software and not enough on the brains.
Yep. So, well, I mean, it's interesting. We will continue to follow this story. Obviously, Jamal and I will do a Q&A at 12 noon in just about an hour and 15 minutes. And if there's any developing news between now and then, even though it's a Q&A show, obviously we will address that. And if there's any questions that are in there, anyway, that's that. And we have one more story. I personally think, well, I guess we don't have one more story. That's it. Robby,
I'm not Manila. Listen, I blast through stuff fast.
I think it should be illegal to arrest people or seek a warrant purely based on facial recognition software.
Oh, I completely agree.
It shouldn't be enough.
100%.
Also, I don't understand when the system realizes that they fucked up this way. I mean, they know they're in trouble, right? I mean, why don't they think, oh my God, we're going to, this person's going to be pissed off. Why not bring her in and say, listen, we're so sorry that this happened, but we'd like to offer you $200,000 for your trouble. We're going to fly you back first class. The governor's going to issue an apology. And then, as opposed to what's going to happen, which is that this is going to drag through the courts, the taxpayers of the state of North Dakota are going to end up paying tens of millions of dollars to defend the case through the courts. And it's going to drag on for years. They're going to lose. And then they're going to ultimately, a jury is going to hear about this and get pissed at the state and award her tens of millions of dollars in damages. Why not just say, we know what's coming. We're gonna come out of our hidey hole and just apologize and do the right thing.
Because contrition's not what we do. And thank you, Jack, for the donation. If Hezbollah truly works for Iran, then Israel would have to stop attacking them in order to adhere to the ceasefire, or else be known as the aggressor by the whole world again. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Let me see. And more breaking news. According to Tassim News Agency, Iran has identified IDF targets for ceasefire violations, and they have informed Pakistan that they are no longer going to adhere to the terms. It says Iran will respond to the ceasefire violations. If America cannot control its dog, we will help them.
It's so funny. It's dog. Well, and that's the thing too. Like, I have to say, Israel is really America's dog. And I know that, like, many people, you included, think that it's the other way around, but maybe we act like it's the other way around. But Israel is nothing without the U.S., and the U.S. is fine without Israel.
Then how does Israel fuck us every single time it wants to?
I think it's, I think it's more like it's sort of like we have like the mean, aggressive friend, and it behooves us to say, oh, there's nothing we can do about our crazy buddy out there in the Middle East. I mean, he's crazy, but we're okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the straits were open for a grand total of 10 minutes this morning.
Is that true?
That's true. That's
so I think like two ships got through.
Two ships got through, and they and the Iranians have notified all the ships that are there in the backlog. If you try to run the blockade, we will blow you out of the water.
So where are you seeing all this?
Right now, this is from Midi Spectator. It's coming in off of their Telegram channel.
Mm-hmm.
And they are incredibly reliable.
Mainstream corporate news is still like basically claiming that it's on.
Yeah, well, they're wrong.
Yeah, Pete Hegseth is calling on Iran to turn over its 970 pounds of enriched uranium to the U.S.
I think I would go with this point. Oh, a $10 donation from Alex. Thank you very much. I think that if I was the Persia and Greece, they've had some interesting history together. I think in this case, I would borrow a line if I was Iran from Leonidas. Do you want my uranium? Come and take it.
Yeah, for sure.
Milan Labay.
Weird.
Yeah. And now Trump is saying that J.D. Vance likely will not attend Pakistan talks due to security concerns. It's wild, man. You see. And now the Iranian embassy in South Africa is trolling Trump. It's on Twitter right now. Hey, Trump, if you have a leash for the rabid dog, should we get one for you?
You know what this means, Robbie. More Lego videos.
Oh, I'm sure they've already got them made.
I love them. They're my favorite thing.
Oh, they're wild.
Well, yeah. I think that pretty much does it for today's show. What do you think, Robbie?
Yeah, unless y'all just want to just troll Trump a bit more.
I think I need the break before the Q&A show. So,
I need coffee.
Yeah.
This getting up at 5 a.m. every day, it gets tiring after a bit.
Yeah, you got to be careful. It's not. It's true. All right. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Let me see if I can manage to do this.
Do you want an ad before we go?
Sure, I'll do an ad.
Here, I'll just read this one, and it's for my favorite sponsor, so it's even more appropriate.
I have a feeling I know who it's going to be.
Oh, I've got no doubt you know exactly who it is. So have you tried 1775 coffee? Now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom ain't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble. What if it's actually worth it? Spoiler, it is. I can guarantee it. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio. Grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does.
Okay. And with that, thank you everyone for tuning in. We are here at the TMI Show with myself and Manila Chan is here 10 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. We'll be back tomorrow, Thursday. Manila will be back in her customary chair. Robby will be piping in as usual, and we always enjoy that. Q&A show for Deprogram with myself and Jamal Thomas coming up at 12 noon Eastern time. We'll bring you up to date with what's going on with the ceasefire or lack thereof.
More breaking.
Let's hear.
So this is from Pakistan. Violations of the ceasefire have been reported at a few places across the conflict zone, which undermine the spirit and peace process. I earnestly and sincerely urge all parties to exercise restraint and ceasefire for 2 weeks as agreed upon, so diplomacy can take a lead role towards a peaceful settlement. The Iranians have replied that talks are done. The time for talking is over.
Okay. That's from the Pakistani government?
Yep, that's from the Pakistanis.
Okay. And with that?
Very short.
And with that, we go. See you tomorrow. Bye,
everyone.
Bye, y'all.